Welcome to Atlantic Cape Community College's Heat-Related Illness Prevention Program training for facilities, grounds, and security staff. Atlantic Cape Community College is committed to the safety of all employees regarding heat-related illnesses. To ensure that all affected employees are provided with the necessary information and training, Atlantic Cape has developed a heat-related illness prevention program plan. Key requirements of the program. Program requirements are based on the heat index, sometimes called the apparent temperature, published by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's National Weather Service. The heat index indicates what the temperature feels like to the human body when relative humidity and air temperature are combined. Supervisors, managers, and department heads must ensure that the plan is implemented when established temperature and humidity levels are met or exceeded. Employees are responsible for understanding and complying with the plan and must complete or attend any assigned training, must immediately report any unsafe conditions to supervisors, and are responsible for taking personal steps to reduce personal risk factors that may exist prior to beginning work. Engineering and administrative controls. Atlantic Cape must provide shade to employees either by natural or artificial means that is either open to the air or have mechanical ventilation for cooling, is located as close as practical to the areas where employees are working, can accommodate at least the number of employees on recovery, rest, or meal periods so that they have room to sit, that does not expose employees to unsafe or unhealthy conditions, and that does not discourage access or use. Shade is available in numerous locations on each campus. Supervisors must make sure that employees may access shade or go inside any Atlantic Cape building when necessary to reduce heat exposure when the heat index equals or exceeds 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Atlantic Cape must ensure that employees have an adequate supply of cool drinking water at all times and at no cost to employees when the heat index is 80 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. Potable water is available from water fountains and water coolers at all times in any Atlantic Cape building that is meant for continuous human occupation, and Atlantic Cape employees have unfettered access to it. 32 ounces per hour is the recommended amount while working in extreme heat. Thirst is not an effective indicator of a person's need for water. Electrolyte replenishing drinks that do not contain caffeine, such as sport drinks, are acceptable substitutes but should not completely replace the required water. We will be discussing the following topics for working when the heat index is at or above 80 degrees Fahrenheit. The environmental and personal risk factors for heat illness, the procedures for complying with the requirements of this plan, how to adapt or work in hot environments, the importance of employees immediately reporting symptoms or signs of heat illness in coworkers or themselves, the effects of non-job factors such as medications, alcohol, and obesity on tolerance to heat stress, and the main types of heat-related illnesses: heat cramps, heat exhaustion, heat syncope, and heat stroke, and their signs and symptoms. If the index exceeds 90 degrees Fahrenheit, Atlantic Cape must implement the following additional high heat practices. Ensure that effective communication by voice, observation, or electronic means is maintained so that employees working at the site can contact a supervisor when necessary. Cell phones and text messaging may be used for this purpose only if reception in the area is reliable. Many impacted Atlantic Cape employees are issued and required to carry a handheld radio while on duty. Ensure that employees are monitored for signs of heat illness and whether medical attention is necessary using one or more of the following: regular communication with employees working alone by radio, cell phone, or other alternative means, a mandatory buddy system, other equally effective means of observation or communication, and designate and appropriately equip one or more employees at each site for each affected shift to call for emergency medical services if needed. Ensure that other employees understand that they are authorized to call for emergency medical services when the designated employees are not immediately available. Ensure that each employee takes a minimum 10-minute preventive cool-down break in the shade at least every 2 hours, regardless of the length of the shift. The rest break can take place with any other meal or rest period required by policy, rule, or law if the timing of the break coincides with the required meal or rest period. The preventive cool-down rest break is a work assignment and employees must be compensated accordingly unless the rest break coincides with an existing unpaid meal break. The following are Atlantic Cape's emergency medical plan procedures for when the heat index exceeds 90 degrees Fahrenheit. 1. If a supervisor observes signs or an employee reports symptoms of heat illness, the employee must immediately be relieved from duty and provided with a means to reduce body temperature and security notified. 2. If the signs or symptoms indicate severe heat illness, such as decreased consciousness, staggering, vomiting, disorientation, irrational behavior, or convulsions, immediately notify security and local emergency medical services by calling 911. An employee exhibiting signs or symptoms of heat illness must be monitored and must not be left alone or sent home without being offered on-site first aid or provided with emergency medical services. Callers must ensure that clear and precise directions to the site are provided to emergency responders so they can quickly find the affected employee. Atlantic Cape will utilize effective acclimatization practices that allow employees to gradually adapt to working at sites where the ambient temperature heat exceeds the heat index of 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Heat illness. Environmental risk factors for heat-related illness. The following are the environmental risk factors for heat-related illness: air temperature above 90 degrees Fahrenheit, relative humidity above 40%, radiant heat from the sun and other sources, conductive heat sources such as dark-colored work surfaces, lack of air movement, physical effort needed for work, and the use of non-breathable protective clothing and other personal protective equipment. The following are personal risk factors for heat-related illness: lack of acclimation to warmer temperatures, poor general health, dehydration, alcohol consumption, caffeine consumption, previous heat-related illness, or the use of prescription medications that affect the body's water retention or other physiological responses to heat, such as beta blockers, diuretics, antihistamines, tranquilizers, and antipsychotics. Common types of heat-related illness. Heat rash. Heat rash is caused by irritation of the skin due to excessive sweating. You can prevent heat rash by wearing loose-fitting clothing that allows sweat to dissipate. Wear freshly laundered clothing each day. Avoid working in sweat-soaked clothing for prolonged periods. And wash sweat-soaked areas with mild soap and water and dry thoroughly at breaks and after your shift. Signs and symptoms include itchy and painful clusters of red blisters, common to the neck, chest, groin, armpits, and creases of the elbows and knees. First aid includes moving the person to a cool location, have the person take a cool shower, thoroughly dry the skin following the shower, continue to ensure the skin is clean and dried frequently, seek medical treatment if the rash persists for more than 2 days or becomes infected. Report heat rash to your supervisor and security. Cramps are caused by the depletion of salt and water in the body due to excessive sweating. This can be a precursor to more serious heat-related illnesses. You can prevent heat cramps by being acclimatized to heat, helping to reduce salt and water loss. Drink adequate amounts of water throughout the day. Salt your food to taste. Signs and symptoms of heat cramps are muscle cramps, spasms, or pain, common in major muscles used for work, such as the arms, legs, abdominal, and back muscles. First aid for heat cramps includes moving a person to a cool location, providing the person with an electrolyte replacement fluid to replace lost salt and water, seek medical treatment if the cramps persist or other heat illness symptoms develop, such as elevated body temperature, elevated heart rate, headache, or dizziness. Report this condition to your supervisor and to security. Heat syncope, or fainting, is caused by prolonged standing or suddenly rising from a seated position or resting or supine position. Dehydration can be a contributing factor. You can prevent heat syncope by acclimatization to heat, helping to reduce dehydration, by drinking adequate amounts of water throughout the day. Break up long periods of standing with small rest breaks, rising slowly from a seated or resting position. Signs and symptoms are lightheadedness or dizziness and fainting. First aid for heat syncope is, if the person is only slightly dizzy and able to move, have 2 people assist and carefully move them to a cool location and have the person lie down on their back with the feet elevated above heart level. Provide small amounts of water. If the dizziness persists, request immediate first aid and/or medical attention. If the person has fainted, then secure the area, elevate their feet above heart level, and request immediate medical attention. Do not allow them to get up quickly or walk about. Report this to a supervisor and security. Heat exhaustion is the body's inability to cool itself, often due to a combination of several factors, such as high temperatures, humidity, physical exertion, dehydration, clothing that blocks sweat and evaporation, and/or alcohol use. This is a serious condition that can lead to a life-threatening heat stroke. Preventive measures are acclimatization to heat, which helps reduce dehydration, drinking adequate amounts of water throughout the day, taking small rest breaks in the shade to allow the body to recover from heavy physical exertion and heat exposure, protecting the skin against sunburn, which reduces the body's ability to cool itself, and if possible, perform heavier physical labor toward the cooler parts of the day, such as early in the morning or in the evening. Signs and symptoms of heat exhaustion are an elevated core body temperature of 100.4 to 102.2 degrees Fahrenheit, or an oral temperature of 99.6 to 101.4 degrees Fahrenheit. A weak but rapid pulse, cool, moist skin, excessive sweating, headache and possible irritability, fatigue and weakness, dizziness and or feeling faint, nausea or vomiting, and decreased urine output. First aid for heat exhaustion. Seek immediate medical care by calling 911. Immediately help the person cool off, move the person to a cool location, remove or loosen unnecessary clothing, have them drink small amounts of cool water, spray the skin with cool water and fan rapidly to increase evaporation and cooling. Monitor the body temperature and continue cooling efforts until the body temperature returns to a normal temperature below 99 degrees Fahrenheit. Implement additional heat stroke treatments if the body temperature does not decrease below 100 degrees Fahrenheit after 30 minutes or increases above 102 degrees Fahrenheit. Report to supervisor and security. Heat stroke is caused by the body being unable to cool itself and regulate the core body temperature. This is a serious and life-threatening condition that requires immediate medical attention. You prevent heat stroke in the same manner as preventing heat exhaustion. Some of the signs and symptoms of heat stroke are an elevated core body temperature above 104 degrees Fahrenheit or an oral temperature above 103.2 degrees Fahrenheit, hot, dry skin or heavy sweating, mental confusion, agitation, and or an irrational behavior, clumsiness, slurred speech, fainting or loss of consciousness, and seizures or convulsions. First aid treatment for heat stroke entails calling 911 and seeking immediate medical attention. Do not wait, as the person's life depends on getting immediate medical care. Provide immediate and aggressive cooling to the person's body. Elevate their feet above heart level. Remove or loosen any unnecessary clothing. Pack ice in the groin and armpit areas. Soak the skin with cool water and fan rapidly and vigorously to increase cooling of the skin. As an alternative, immerse the person in a tub of cool water or spray the body with large amounts of cool water. Do not give the person fluids to drink, especially if they are unconscious. Monitor the body temperature and continue cooling efforts until the body temperature returns to a normal temperature below 99 degrees Fahrenheit. Administer CPR as needed if blood circulation or breathing stops until emergency medical services arrive. Immediately report to supervisor and security. Sometimes, when a person is exposed to a combination of heat stress and prolonged physical exertion, muscles start to break down and die, releasing proteins and electrolytes into the bloodstream. This causes a condition called rhabdomyolysis and is a potentially life-threatening condition that affects the kidneys and requires immediate medical attention. Preventive measures are the same as for heat stroke and heat exhaustion. Avoid overexertion, such as lifting objects heavier than you can comfortably lift or straining muscles to the point where they can no longer function properly. Those with diabetes, thyroid conditions, or muscular dystrophy are at a greater risk. Those with a viral infection such as flu, HIV, or herpes are at a greater risk. Use of alcohol and illegal drugs such as heroin, cocaine, and amphetamines can increase the risk. Some medications, such as antipsychotics or statins, can also increase the risk. Signs and symptoms are muscle cramps, pain and or loss of range, joint pain or stiffness, swelling of the muscles, weakness and a decreased ability to perform physical exertion for even a small amount of time, dark urine similar to a tea or cola color, and if the kidneys are damaged and/or failure occurs, the following life-threatening indicators may be observed: shortness of breath, irregular heartbeat, swelling in the legs and feet, seizures, and coma. Seek immediate medical care for a victim of rhabdomyolysis. The victim needs IV fluids and treatments to combat toxic proteins in the blood to prevent kidney failure. Report this condition immediately to supervisors and security. Steps in preventing heat-related illness. Gradually increase workloads and allow more frequent breaks during the first week of work so that employees become acclimatized to higher temperatures, especially those who are new to working in the heat or have been away from that work for a week or more. Encourage employees to frequently drink small amounts of water before they become thirsty to stay hydrated. During moderate activity and moderately hot conditions, employees should drink about 8 ounces of liquid every 15 to 20 minutes. Employees can monitor their hydration with a urine chart. Urine should be clear or slightly colored. Dark urine is a warning sign. Encourage employees to eat regular meals and snacks as they provide enough salt and electrolytes to replace those lost during sweating as long as enough water is consumed. Provide a buddy system where employees encourage each other to drink water, use shade to stay cool, and watch each other for symptoms of heat-related illness. Drinking extreme amounts of water can also be harmful, such as more than 12 quarts in a 24-hour period. Schedule frequent rest periods with water breaks in shaded or air-conditioned recovery areas. Note that air conditioning does not result in a loss of heat tolerance. Ensure employees are aware of the signs of heat-related illnesses and encourage them to report immediately if they or their coworkers show symptoms. Monitor weather reports daily and reschedule jobs with high heat exposure to cooler times of the day if possible. Be extra vigilant when air temperatures rise quickly. When possible, schedule routine maintenance and other repair projects for the cooler parts of the year. Use the OSHA NIOSH Heat Safety Tool app for your smartphone as a resource for planning outdoor work activities based on how hot it feels throughout the day. It features real-time heat index and hourly forecasts specific to your location, as well as occupational safety and health recommendations from OSHA and NIOSH. It is available for iPhone or Android. More information about the OSHA NIOSH Heat Safety Tool app can be found on the CDC website. The OSHA NIOSH Heat Safety Tool is a useful resource for planning outdoor work activities based on how hot it feels throughout the day. It has a real-time heat index and hourly forecast specific to your location. It also provides occupational safety and health recommendations from OSHA and NIOSH. Information about effective hydration and a urine color chart is also available on the CDC website. And finally, information about work-rest schedules based on temperature can also be found on the CDC website. Campus security can be reached by using any of the emergency wall phones located in hallways and classrooms. All hallway phones require a 4-digit extension at each campus. All classroom phones will automatically connect with security when picked up. You can also call in Mays Landing 609-343-5125, in Atlantic City 609-343-4841, and in Cape May, 609-463-6391. If you have any questions regarding Atlantic Cape's Heat Illness Prevention Program Plan or any other health and safety concerns, please contact Mary Simpson, the Compliance Officer, at msimpson@atlanticcape.edu. Thank you. Remember, safety starts with you.